So my former senatorial colleague, Sean Sobers, to address the critical issue of the Prime Minister's admission and confession that he was the senior or public official that intercepted the merit list, and what are the implications for our institutions such as the Police Service Commission and by extension the stability and integrity of our democracy. So, ladies and gentlemen of the media, I hand you over to distinguished colleague Sean Sobers, who will address you on the matter that I've just outlined. Sean, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Senator Mark, and a pleasant and warm good afternoon to the members of the public tuned in to the United National Congress's press conference. Now, Senator Mark has hit the nail squarely on the head, as he usually does. Within the last couple of days, we have had some significant and troubling revelations coming from no one less than the Prime Minister of this country, where he has indicated elusively that he was the person who went to President's house and would have influenced in some way, form or fashion the retraction of this list with respect to the Police Service Commission. Now, this is the first time in the history of our country that our constitution has been under attack, that our democracy has been under attack. Because the Police Service Commission is one of those commissions created by the Constitution, protected in a particular way by the Constitution, that is supposed to be independent, free of bias, free of political interference. And in this particular situation, we can clearly see that that is not what took place. Now, I want persons to understand, because we've gone through this on a number of occasions, a timeline of events which have led us to this particular situation, this impasse that we are at currently. Now, Section 122 of the Constitution deals with respect to the appointment and the rules and functions of the Police Service Commission. So I made that quite clear. It's enshrined within our Constitution what they are supposed to do. Basically, they are supposed to generate a list, right? Then this list will be generated based upon orders that would be developed and created by the Parliament, by the government, and pursuant to generating this list, subsequent to whatever rigors that they would employ, they would then forward this list to President's House, and then President's House would subsequently forward the list to the Parliament for debate, and we would have the appointment of a police commissioner. Now, while this process was going on sometime during the course of last year, mid-August, around that time, we would have been treated with a significant or plethora of emails that would have come out from the workings of the Police Service Commission by one in particular, Roger Cabal. Because we at the public, we would have heard that this list was supposedly delivered to President's House, and then in an astonishing turn of events, the list was retracted. For the first time in the history of this country, the list was retracted. And we were told, or at least we saw by virtue of these emails from Mr. Cabal that when the chairman, Blessy Prasad, attended President's House, she met with someone, a high-ranking official, who we now know to be the Prime Minister of this country, and she would have been briefed with some information that excited her to the point that she retracted this list for the first time in the history of this country. And many of you would know and would recall what slippery slope the country then went downwards onto, where we had, for the first time in the country, we were left without a police commissioner for some time, and crime started to spiral out of control and continues to spiral out of control up to this day. And we wondered who this person was. We called upon the several players involved in this particular situation to come forward to indicate to us as a whole what actually transpired at President's House. And lo and behold, a mere couple of months subsequent to this incident, you have a revelation from the Prime Minister of this country that he went to President's house and he gave certain information. Now let's make this thing quite clear for you. The Prime Minister's position in this entire thing is that he was seized of certain information. And he, like any other citizen within this country, could have gone to the President or gone to the Police Service Commission and presented them with this information. He being the Prime Minister, it shouldn't matter. Any civilian, any person within this country would have had the same ability to so do. But let me tell you something, Mr. Prime Minister. You, Mr. Prime Minister, on a previous occasion, when you were seized of certain information, what did you do? You did the formal and correct thing. You reduced those concerns and that information into writing, information of which you reveal later on to demonstrate or to indicate to the public that you thought the then Commissioner of Police was disrespectful. And you forwarded those concerns to the Police Service Commission, which is what any reasonable thinking and minded individual would do. Contemporaneous notes, compiled, reduced into writing, forwarded formally so nobody could say that you didn't say this or you didn't say that or you didn't do this or you didn't do the other. And you sent it to the Police Service Commission and they had this big hullabaloo where you basically summons Gary Griffith to come to sit down and take certain instructions from you and others, and you went about your business. So you know how to forward information, as you are saying now. So why didn't you do that in this case? Questions have been raised. If you had issues with respect to the Commissioner of Police, or if you had issues with respect to Gary Griffith being on this merit list, at the top of the list or whatnot, why didn't you allow the list to come to the Parliament in full view and spectacle of the public to have the list debated? You've done this before. In 2018 or 17 thereabouts, when Gary Griffith was first appointed, the list came to the Parliament. There were 4 or 5 other persons before Griffith on this list. Stephen Williams, Deol Chan, Dulal Chan and others. And the Parliament went through a debate, and the government of the day, as Senator Mark likes to say all the time, that the opposition will have its say, but the government will have its way. They did just the same thing. They cut down all these persons, mowed them down on the list, and came to Gary Griffith and gave him the job of Commissioner of Police. Why did you not do that in this time around? You chose to go, as we like to say, in the dead of secrecy, surreptitiously, clandestinely to President's house to give certain information, you say, to Blissy Prasad. Right? Let me say something squarely now. We need to hear, because we've heard from you, Mr. Prime Minister, we've heard something resembling some format of information from the President coming out on this issue, which I will touch on in a bit as well too. But we really haven't heard from the person at the center of this debacle, which is Ms. Blissy Prasad. And if it is the Prime Minister of this country who knows what the correct thing to do, which would have been to reduce those concerns into writing. I mean, the last time you wrote a letter, you indicated that you knew this man, Gary Griffith, had issues with your Minister of National Security. You had issues with the head of the SSA. You put all that pen to paper. But on this particular occasion, whatever information you had, it was so great that you couldn't reduce it into writing. And that is why now, as a responsible opposition, we are asking Chairman or former Chairman Blissy Prasad to come forward, come clean to the public and let us know what actually took place. Was it a threat? Was it an instruction? Was it coercion that made you retract that list? And if it is any of the above, then that is misbehavior in public office. And this is what we want to find out from Blissy Prasad, because we are left in the dark. That nobody, especially the Prime Minister of this country, should roll up on President's house, Balize house, whichever house, to give any instruction to anybody to do anything like that, especially when you're dealing with an independent body like the Police Service Commission. And these are the questions that we are left with in this particular situation. Right? Why was this done in this particular way? And it has a lot of us within the opposition and many persons within the community and the public at large questioning, even the actions of Ms. Prasad. You didn't go there as a one person. This decision, this merit list was complied by virtue of a quorum. A significant amount of persons came together to prepare this list. You can unilaterally retract this list. Why did you do that? What took place on the grounds of President's house? And why did the President in and of herself, I mean, I have said this on a number of occasions, a brilliant Court of Appeal judge, but a terrible President would have allowed something like this to happen. If you sitting down there in President's house and you see the Prime Minister come and having a conversation with Ms. Blissy Prasad, and you know this is around the same time Liz coming to your house, you should come out and tell him, listen, take a walk in the botanical gardens and leave the residence. That is what a responsible president would have done. Not leave the country in this pandemonium and this particular situation which we are in. And it leaves us to really wonder, is it that all of this took place because the PNM did not want a confirmed commissioner of police? Is it because they wanted a commissioner of police who's acting? Someone who may have to very well skip to the beat of the drum? Is that why we are in this particular position? Because you always ever wanted an acting commissioner of police? These are the questions that remain unanswered. And today, as a responsible opposition, under the leadership of Ms. Kamla Prasad, we are calling upon these players, especially Ms. Prasad, to come clean to the public, to come clean to the country, once and for all, and put these issues to rest. Does the Prime Minister of this country have serious questions, criminal questions to answer with respect to his conduct on that day, that fateful day at President's house? Now, I know, as we are here, Senator Mark made mention of it, and he will get into it as he does, surgically as he does, that there has been a cabinet reshuffle. And me, being the person who ran at some point in time, just the other day, 2020, in San Fernando West, I mean, many persons have asked me about this reshuffle, in particular as it pertains to the former Attorney General. Now, Senator Mark will indicate, and our leaders indicated, it takes two persons to form the cabinet, the Prime Minister and the AG. PM is number one, AG is number two. The only place for the AG to go is up at number one. Is it because in an election year, internal election year, that the Prime Minister may have gotten wind that the Attorney General wants that number one position, and this is why this reshuffle has taken place? Because he's gone down, it's a clear demotion. What has essentially happened to the former Attorney General is that he's traded his working tools from that of a pen to a shovel. Nothing is wrong with going to the Ministry of Local Government. They have a lot of essential work to be done there. But ultimately we know that this ministry is also extremely important. Local government touches the lives of many persons within this country. And you need someone to be on the ground to assist people. And clearly, by the workings of the AG, or the former AG, in that capacity, he's failed there. He's definitely not going to be able to get on the ground to assist anybody in this particular ministry. And this is the first time in a very long time the Prime Minister of this country has taken proper instruction from Mrs. Kamla Prasad, because we have a motion before the Parliament of no confidence in the former AG. And it appears that the Prime Minister also has lost confidence in Faris Alwari, hence the reason why he's not the Attorney General of this country anymore. And I want to tell Faris something. Back in January in the Senate, the good Senator Mark put to you some good advice which you should have taken on board. He told you then that you were embattled, that you had all these issues. You were the one who drafted this ad hominem legislation as well too, that was struck down by the courts, favouring one person in the form of Gary Griffith to become Commissioner of Police, and then the dead of the night when you went to England, that to change the law because the court said wrong, that legal notice, right? And Senator Mark gave you some good advice in January. With all of this that you were surrounded with all of these problems, these issues, he told you then, you should think about crossing the floor, and cross the floor in the Senate, and go straight to the independent bench, because we are wanting the opposition. Right? If you consider it then, you may not have been in the problem that you are in right now. And so with those few words, I would now pass the conference on to the goodly Senator Mark, where we will surgically do the work needed on this cabinet reshuffle.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you very much for that piece of information that you have shared with the public on the crisis at the level of our Constitution and law involving the Prime Minister. Now, members of the media, let it be made abundantly clear today that what Trinidad and Tobago and the people of this society and country witnessed in the last 24 hours is a monumental charade, a farce, a mockery, an absurdity, all in an effort by a beleaguered, lazy, incompetent, non-performing Prime Minister to distract and deflect from the real challenges facing Trinidad and Tobago and its people. So he has invented a reshuffle in an effort to distract the attention of our nation on the real issues confronting it. How will this so-called shuffle in of this deck of cards bring about any improvement in the people's quality of life and standard of living? How? It will not. But we are witnessing an implosion. The government is imploding. The government is collapsing. The center cannot hold. The government wishes us, the people, to forget the criminal negligence on the part of Paria in the deaths of these 4 divers and the challenges up to this time being faced by their families with no support whatsoever from this government. They want us to forget that. So the Prime Minister's best friend, the chairman of the board of directors of Paria Fuel, could get away scot-free. He's still on the job when he was supposed to be removed from the job. So Newman is still there. A fellow called Colin Piper is still there on the job. So they want us to forget that. Brothers and sisters, my colleague has indicated to you what they also want us to forget. The breach of our Constitution. The breach of the separation of powers. They want us to forget that. They want us to be distracted and deflected from the high and rising cost of living for the ordinary people, particularly high food prices. His indication and commitment to increase the price of gasoline, whether it is super unleaded, whether it is diesel at the pump for the ordinary people, so that there will be an additional increase in the cost of living. That is what the Prime Minister would like us to forget, ladies and gentlemen. So he comes to this reshuffle, and the Attorney General is moved from the office of Attorney General and he's put in the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. I want this nation never to forget the colorful and checkered career of this individual who was a former Attorney General. If you check the character of this individual and the confusion surrounding this individual, this gentleman ought to have been removed from his post years ago. We say good riddance to the Attorney General. No tears will be shed for this gentleman. He is still to answer the country. No report has been published on children purportedly belonging to the AG carrying heavy weaponry at a camp in Komuto. A gentleman from the army, an officer of the army by the name of Samaru, died under mysterious circumstances as a result of that fiasco. The Attorney General was involved in all kinds of activities and questionable activities that he ought to have been dismissed on and for. Whether it was the car being transferred and not being transferred, whether it had to do with him breaking or purportedly breaking the public health regulations. We all remember this. He was involved in the school matter. He was the man at the center of the controversy. A police officer is reported to have said he called the police station in Carenage, and they have it recorded, attempting indirectly or allegedly attempting to interfere with the investigation. And never forget, he had to recuse himself on several occasions from the cabinet because he was conflicted. This Attorney General in a serious country would have been charged for misbehavior in public office. Renting a building to the state for over $600,000 a month and collecting close to $23 million at the end of 3 years. I understand, and the government must deny it. The government has renewed his contract for that building, that lease for that building, which ended in February. Mr. Prime Minister, deny it. Tell Trinidad and Tobago you have not renewed that lease for another 3 years and another $23 million. So good riddance to the Attorney General. And then he comes with some cosmetics changes. Maybe you see Penny or Penelope Beckles as a threat in the upcoming internal election. Was Penny going to confront you? So you move Penny out of housing and you put Camille. That is internal bacchanal. That is part of the implosion that is taking place in the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And then when you come to the Senate, you see all kinds of things taking place. Mr. Rambarat, who was with, we spoke on Tuesday last, and no hint that he was going through the chute. But Mr. Rambarat has suddenly resigned. We need to get to the bottom of that story. Why did he resign suddenly? We don't have the answers. He gave the country some half-baked story about he wants to go back to Canada because he has been missing his family. A gentleman who has been in office for 6 years with his family in Canada for several years. He is now missing his family. Look, they are not telling the truth. Whatever is in the dark, members of the public, working class citizens of our country, will come to the light. We will know exactly why Clarence resigned. We will know. And then I see now we have 3 ministers in one ministry. You have Kazem Hussein, Minister of Agriculture. Then you have 2 ministers in the Ministry of Agriculture. One called Avinash Singh. And now the Vice President of the Senate has resigned his post. He is now a minister in the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries, with responsibility for land. I want to ask the Prime Minister and Avinash Singh a question. I cast no aspersions. Can Mr. Avinash Singh confirm whether he is the de facto general manager of the Prime Minister's goat and sheep farm in Tobago? The same farm that the Prime Minister said is now exporting meat to Trinidad. So the Prime Minister is an entrepreneur, a businessman, getting 2 sets of salaries, which is contrary to his office and his position. Mr. Prime Minister, could you also confirm whether Mr. Avinash Singh works for you, and in what capacity? We understand he's a general manager. Could you confirm? Could you deny? And further, we have been advised that Mr. Avinash Singh is more in Tobago, seeing about the goat and sheep farm, than he is in the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. That is what we have been told by the people. Mr. Prime Minister, clear the air. Mr. Avinash Singh, clear the air. Who is paying you as general manager of the goat and sheep farm owned by the Prime Minister in Tobago? Is it the Prime Minister? Do you have receipts to show for it? Or is it the taxpayers in your capacity as a minister? Because you are never present, as far as we understand, to carry out your functions and duties as a minister. Clear the air. We cast no aspersions. We ask questions. Who is paying your salary as general manager of the goat and sheep farm owned by the Prime Minister, which the Prime Minister boasted at a conference in Tobago recently during the Tobago House of Assembly elections, that he is now exporting. You know what the man said? He's exporting meat to Trinidad. You think he's exporting it for free? He's being paid. So the Prime Minister is getting another salary outside of the one that he's receiving as Prime Minister. We need to clear the air on these matters. Now the other question we want to ask, who is going to assume leadership of government business in the Senate? Only a couple of hours ago, Clarence Rambarat was the leader of government business. He had replaced Franklin Khan, who died, and may his soul rest in peace. So who is going to replace Clarence Rambarat as the new leader of government business? We don't have a clue. We need clarification. Members of the media, it is clear to us that the government is engaged in musical chairs. This is a massive distraction on the part of the Prime Minister to change the narrative in his favor. But we are sticking and we are focusing and we are disciplined. We are focusing on the issues affecting the people. Members of the media, In come the new Attorney General, and out goes the former Attorney General. The incoming Attorney General. I want to ask the incoming Attorney General, Mr. Reginald Amo, SC. There are some questions that the public would like to clarify, Mr. Attorney General. Because you are now a servant of the people, and you are now accountable to the people. So transparency demands that you come clean on matters that is before the country. I want to ask the Attorney General. You see this? Members of the media? This is called A-Box Investments. You can go to the registry and upload it. A-Box Investments Limited. This was incorporated on the 9th of November 2004 with 3 shareholders. 3 shareholders. Members of the media? I didn't say directors, you know. I said shareholders. Owners of A-Box Investment. Who, ladies and gentlemen, are these 3 shareholders? Reginald Amo SC, 90 Marava Road, Port of Spain, attorney at law, 1 ordinary share. It's here. It's here. Here is the second shareholder, Vanessa Gopal, number 90 Marava Road, Port of Spain, attorney at law, 1 ordinary share. This is in 2005, after it was incorporated. 3, Faris Alwari. Faris Alwari. His location, number 45 to 45A, 45C, St. Vincent Street, Port of Spain, attorney at law, 1 ordinary share. Members of the media, go to the company's registry. Look for A-Box, A-B-O-X, Investments Limited. You know what A-Box means? A-B means Abercrombie, and O-X means Oxford. This building is located at the corner of Abercrombie Street and Oxford Street, Port of Spain, obliquely opposite the Martin Daly's office. So in 2005, this occurred. 1 share for Mr. Amo, 1 share for Vanessa Gopal, and 1 share for Mr. Faris Alwari. So we want to clear the air. In 2008, we understand that the shares were transferred. And I want to be very, very clear on what I'm saying. Shareholders in 2005, shareholders in 2006, shareholders in 2007, shareholders in 2008. October 2008, from the registry, I have a document. It is here. It's here. Document says transfer of shares. On the 9th of October 2008, transferred by Vanessa Gopal to Jacob Hadid. So the share was transferred on the 9th of October 2008 from Vanessa Gopal to Jacob Hadid. On the same day, the 9th of October 2008, transferred by Reginald Amor, SC, to Dr. Claude Denbo, SC, and Donna Denbo. And the last share on the same day, 9th of October 2008, it was transferred by Faris Alwari. You know what is interesting? It was transferred by Faris Alwari to Faris Alwari and Muna Nahus. Look at here. The question that I pose to you is simply this. Since 2004 and the first annual report in 2005, Mr. Reginald Amor and Mr. Faris Alwari and a lady called Vanessa Gopal bought shares, one share each, in a company called A-Box Investments Limited. So I asked Mr. Reginald Amor, do you have a business relationship with Mr. Faris Alwari? We were only able to discover one called A-Box Investments when you were a shareholder in 2005 till the 9th of October 2008. So we want to ask the new Attorney General, who purportedly has replaced Faris Alwari, is that a replacement? Or is this an exchange of seats? We ask the question because this is the public interest here. We want to know. And by the way, members of the media, let me inform you, if you didn't know, when we requested under FOIA for the legal fees paid by the Attorney General's office for the period 2015 to 2020, he produced a document. And Mr. Reginald Amor, SC, was leading the pack or almost leading the pack. But his take in legal fees and briefs was over $10 million. $10 million. This is coming from the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General is retaining Mr. Reginald Amor to fight cases on behalf of the state. And Mr. Attorney General Faris Alwari is producing documented evidence, which we have in our possession, showing that this gentleman, who is now our Attorney General, received over $10 million in legal fees. So we want to ask Mr. Reginald Amor, that was then when it was issued. Between when it was issued in 2020 to now 2022, we have seen you representing the AG's office in several cases. How much money is owed to Mr. Reginald Amor? As we speak, we need full disclosure. We need transparency. We need accountability. How much money is still owed to Mr. Reginald Amor? And by the way, who is going to pay how much money is owed to the new Attorney General? Is the new Attorney General going to pay himself? These are questions that the public would like clarification on the new Attorney General, who has now taken over from the old Attorney General. And I understand they are very, very close. In fact, a picture paints 1,000 words. You could just look at this. It is almost like love at first sight. Look at this picture. It tells you that there is a tight relationship between the Attorney General, who has recently been appointed, Reginald Amor, and this outgoing Attorney General, Faris Alwari. So all we are seeking at this news conference is that we are seeking the public's interest. The public interest demands full disclosure. So we call on the Attorney General to come clean. Tell us how much money you are owed. And by the way, Mr. Attorney General, you have a chamber. You have a law chamber. And that law chamber was approached on several occasions over the last 6 to 7 years by the former Attorney General's office for legal brief, to do legal work on behalf of the state. What would be your position now, Mr. Reginald Amor? Would you now distance yourself from your chamber? Or would you be providing your chamber and the lawyers therein with briefs? We ask these questions because we want accountability, we want transparency, we want openness, and we want the new Attorney General to come clean on these matters. So that is a matter that we are asking the new Attorney General to come and clarify for us. Now, the other point I want to make very, very clear is this. We have information that we received. It's a case involving an application by the Attorney General of St. Christopher and Nevis, pursuant to Section 36 of the Constitution of St. Christopher and Nevis, and to Section 12 of the National Assembly Elections Act, Chapter 201, between the Attorney General of St. Christopher and Nevis and Dr. Denzel Douglas. It's the case on page 37 of this judgment. This is what I bring to your attention. Paragraph 37. Mr. Reginald Amor, SC, is a citizen of the Commonwealth of Dominica and is an attorney with over 30 years experience practicing at the bar of Trinidad and Tobago, Dominica, and several other Caribbean countries. It's here. Look at here. 37. We asked the question to Mr. Reginald Amor. Do you have dual citizenship? Come clean and tell the country, do you have dual citizenship? Are you a citizen of Dominica, the Commonwealth of Dominica? Are you a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago? And how did you get your citizenship in Dominica? We would like to ask the newly minted Attorney General, Reginald Amor, SC, whether he was born in Trinidad or whether he was born in Dominica. We need answers to this question, because if he was not born in Dominica and they have him now as a citizen of Dominica, in this judgment that I've just shown you, then he is disqualified under our Constitution from holding office as Attorney General. So he needs to clear the air. Is this another blunder by our incompetent Prime Minister, as we had recently with a fellow called Robert Lehunt, when he installed Robert Lehunt, only to find out that Robert Lehunt was a Ghanaian, and he couldn't be a Ghanaian and be a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago and become the Minister of Public Utilities. He had to run out of the country, catch the first flight out of Piako, head back to Ghana to renounce his citizenship in order for him to qualify to be a minister. You have to be a citizen to be a minister of this country. So we want to know if this is another blunder on the part of the Prime Minister. So Mr. Reginald Amor, we cast no aspersions on your good name. But it's Trinidad and Tobago first. The interest of Trinidad and Tobago comes before the Attorney General, Reginald Amor, SC. And it's our duty and responsibility to get from him whether he is conflicted and whether the Prime Minister has blundered in this matter. The ball is in the court of the newly minted Attorney General to clear the air on his citizenship. We understand and we ask, were you born in Trinidad and Tobago? If you were born in Trinidad and Tobago and they have you down as a citizen in Dominica, how did you acquire your citizenship? Did you involuntarily acquire it? Well, Mr. Attorney General, if you have 10-day resignation, forthwith. You cannot qualify to be our Attorney General. The ball is now in the court of the newly minted Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago. I also want to ask him, as he's now attending, he has now entered the compound of the Attorney General's office. The former Attorney General had a gang, a clique, a team of lawyers that got every single brief. It was like a cabal, a legal cabal. There was no equal opportunity for lawyers to get briefs at the AG's office. I'm talking about the Good Riddance AG. We shed no tears for this hypocrite called Faris Alwari. None! No tears! This gentleman had a gang, a group, a cabal that he used to operate with while he was Attorney General. We want to ask this current newly minted Attorney General whether he intends to adopt a new approach or whether he intends to adopt a model of non-disclosure. You know, there's a document that I didn't work with, but that document, if I pass it on to you, members of the media, you'll see how insulting that document is. Questions were asked by us in the Parliament about fees given to lawyers in different parts of the governmental apparatus, whether it was agriculture, health, housing, whether it was in the area of public utilities or the Prime Minister's office. You know the AG told us? The AG, the outgoing AG, the Good Riddance AG, tells us in writing that he cannot provide us with any information on how much fees lawyers get. He must first consult with the lawyers to get their permission to release information to us in the parliament. That is insulting. That is contemptuous. That is the man who was our former Attorney General, operating in secrecy. No sunshine, only darkness. Why? What was the Attorney General hiding from the population that he couldn't provide us with the information that we requested? So we asked the incoming Attorney General whether he intends to follow that same model or whether he will be more transparent and accountable to the population. After all, under Section 785(1) of our Constitution, the Cabinet is accountable to the Parliament, and therefore it must come clean. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to indicate to you 2 final points. Wastage of taxpayers' money by the Attorney General's office on overseas travels. As we speak, rather than hold a virtual conference on a matter that is currently taking place at the Privy Council, lawyers for the Attorney General's office are now in London at our expense, when you could have held a virtual conference, which is now commonly practiced in this period of COVID-19. There was no need to travel. So that's an area we want the incoming Attorney General to pay attention to. Wastage of resources when people cannot get water, when people cannot afford to buy food, where TSTT is threatening to get rid of close to 600 workers. You have money being wasted by the Attorney General's office. So we want some clarification from him on this matter. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, I think I've said enough on this newly minted Attorney General. We want answers from him. We want clarification from him. More importantly, we want him to come clean on this dual citizenship. Come clean. Were you born in Trinidad? Answer that question. Or were you born in Dominica? Answer that question. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll pause at this time, and any questions that you have for us, we will entertain at this time.
I just have 2 questions. Can you give us clarity on A-Box? Is it just a property, or is it, I'm sure, a business? And if it's a business, what the business is?
Well, I understand it's a property in which offices are rented. So if you want, my brother, you can go to A-Box now when you leave here. It is on Abercrombie Street at the corner of Oxford and Abercrombie, a big building that is owned by Faris. In fact, the last set of owners, if I may tell you, that we have here on file, because Reginald Amor, to be fair to him, he transferred rather, his share on the 9th of October 2009. But the point I'm making, he and the former Attorney General are like
2009 or 2008?
2009. 2009, I told you, let me just get it for you to make sure I am giving you the correct information. You're right. It was on the 9th of October 2008 it was transferred. So that's you're correct on that. Okay? So you can travel now when you leave here and take a picture of that building. All we are asking is that you wouldn't go into business with me unless you know me and you have confidence in our relationship. This is not a director, you know. He was not made a director, you know. He was a shareholder from 2009 2004, when the company was incorporated, 2005, to the time he transferred in 2008. That is the point I'm making. So yes, it is a rental arrangement involving this huge structure at the corner of Abercrombie Street and Oxford Street.
My final question, with regards to what you were saying about the minted AG and his chambers and the briefs that would be going to him, a similar question was posed to then AG Mr. Ram Logan, and I recall him saying in Parliament that he wouldn't give briefs out to his enemies, he would give them out to his friends. What then would the UNC have to say in response to that when it's brought up that more or less the same thing is being done here?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that we have to deal with principles. If something was wrong then, if for instance the AG said that then, we are saying to you now that we are asking the incoming Attorney General whether he's going to, now the incoming Attorney General, he caught me, I must tell you, I really thought he was a neutral attorney. But there are so many closet P&M attorneys in this country that they only come out of their woodworks, as we have seen now. I never knew Reginald Amor was a P&M. So he's now a P&M Attorney General.
In all fairness, I think all AGs would be politically inclined under any political...
No, well, what I'm saying is that Alan Ram Logan was clear. He campaigned with us.
Mm-hmm.
He campaigned with us in 2010. I was there. So everybody knows Anna was a COP. He came across to the UNC and he became the new Attorney General. It was a UNC campaign. You ever see Amor campaign for the PNM? I never saw him on any campaign for the PNM. Never. I agree with you. He's entitled to his political views. The Constitution says you have that right. But why didn't come out and tell the country that? Why didn't come out and tell the country that? We have to discover now, through what happened yesterday, that Reggie, and you know, I was reading something which I realized it consolidates my position. When the leader of the opposition occupied his office, who is now Prime Minister, Keith Christopher Rowley, he had a legal advisor. And in the literature, based on the research I have done, and I asked Reginald Amor, without casting any aspersions, whether during the period 2010 to 2015, he was the legal advisor to the then leader of the opposition. I would like clarification on that. I read that somewhere, but I need clarification on it. Let him clarify that point. I cast no aspersions on the gentleman. We are looking after the national interest. We are looking after the national good. We are looking after the public good and the public interest. That is what we are about. We are not about personalities and we are not about friendship. We are about the public interest, and that is where we anchor our position. Okay?
What I would also like to add, as you raise that issue, if you look back at the list, and Santa Mark would have touched on that in terms of equity. If you look at the list of persons, lawyers, under the former Attorney General Alan Ram Logan, the list is extensive. There are several persons from all different categories, but they want to call them or coin them PNM or UNC. Several persons throughout the length and breadth of this country that were able to apply, or they were able to receive briefs accordingly. So the point we are trying to make is that in this particular incarnation of the government under the PNM, there's a handful of persons, which is squarely different from what obtained under Alan Ram Logan.
Any final question, brother? You're cool.
I'm cool. I don't know if that one coming from online.
So we have one coming in. Do you think the president has an obligation to come out and answer questions now regarding the POSI?
Absolutely, she has to come out and indicate what took place. Now that we know that the high-ranking official that attended President's house that was part and parcel of this issue, this debacle, this constitutional debacle that is now attacking the fabric of our democracy. She has a duty to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and its citizens to come out and indicate categorically what actually took place on that day. That duty is also equally shared, it's equally borne by Blessy Prasad as well too, because it calls squarely into question whether or not an instruction was given, whether or not a threat was made, whether or not she was coerced. And our position is, if it is any of the three, that is misbehavior in public office.
Now, let me just say in closing, the time has come for the Prime Minister to pack up his bag and go. The people have had enough of the incompetence of this Prime Minister. This government is imploding. It has collapsed in office. The center cannot hold any longer. The nation is crying out to go back to the polls. Let us call fresh elections in this country and let the people give a new mandate to the United National Congress to run this country, because the PNM has proven to be a totally incompetent administration, a monumental failure, and a group of kleptocrats who are only concerned about promoting their own selfish interests. Thank you very much, members of the media. If you have no further questions.
I want to clarify something with Mr. Sobers. Do you accept the Prime Minister's position that one, there was no three-party meeting between him, Bliss, and the President, and two, the information that he would have shared with Mr. Prasad was not any instruction or interference, but him just fulfilling his duty in passing on information, thereby not directly or indirectly interfering with the process that the merit list should have taken?
I don't accept that one bit, and I'll tell you exactly why. As I pointed out, the Prime Minister knows how to share information. Commissioner Cabal, as he then was, indicated in his email, anybody, any citizen, any high-ranking government official who has an issue with anything related to the police service, the police commissioner, the police service commission, the merit list, whatever it may be, reduce your concerns into writing and forward it to the commission, so the commission as a whole could have treated with the issue. What made the Prime Minister so much different from any other citizen? The same way that he had information and issues with the Commissioner of Police the year before, where he called him disrespectful, where he pointed out that he had issues with the line minister, the Minister of National Security, and issues with the head of the SSA, and he put pen to paper and he forwarded that complaint to the commission. Why did he not do this on this occasion? And that is why we cannot trust him, and that is why we are asking these questions. So to come now, months after this issue has been played out in the public domain, and reveal bits and pieces of further information, how can we trust someone like that? How can we trust anything that is coming from his lips? And that is the point we're trying to make. You knew what the correct position was. You knew what the correct thing to do was, because you did it before. So why didn't you do it now?
Let me just say in closing, and this is directed at the incoming or the newly appointed Attorney General. I ask him, if conflicted loyalties arise between Trinidad and Tobago and the Commonwealth of Dominica, what would be your position, Mr. Attorney General? If this country has a conflict with Dominica or the Commonwealth of Dominica, what would be your position, Mr. Attorney General? Where would your loyalty lie? Hence the reason we are calling on him, the new Attorney General, to clear the air on the issue of his dual citizenship, since it is a matter of grave concern in the public domain. So we want to re-emphasize this point to the Attorney General. Thank you very much. Members of the media, may I, on behalf, if there are no further questions, may I, on behalf of the United National Congress, record and register our appreciation for your presence here today to this particular conference of our party. We do have a meeting tonight, I know in St. Augustine. There's a public meeting that is taking place. It is entitled TNT Speaks. So you are invited to cover that meeting. Then we come back on Sunday for another media conference. So please stay tuned, and we resume our Monday night People's Forum at the headquarters of the party. So we look forward to you joining us at those events in the coming days. Good afternoon and take care.